of the most irreverent guys that you can hope to meet in the golf industry. Number one, an old friend of mine, Jim Prusa. Hey, you're getting old. You're beginning to walk slowly.
Tony asked me if I mentioned that. I didn't think we had.
The other gentleman needs no introduction.
Maybe,
Greg
probably.
Patterson. Now,
it's maybe one of those
the
faces that's hard
platform
to
for
forget.
them is going to be driven by one word. Be totally irreverent, be totally disrespectful of the establishment, and come up with game-changing ideas that are going to be so exciting and ideas that are going to help us grow the game. So on that note, over to you. You need a trimming of your beard.
Even before we go into that, James, I don't mean to break in right now, but Jeffrey, I thought it was really special when you talk about fitting clubs. I think the thing we got to understand is that you're actually with a person, say, for 30 minutes. Your opportunity to create a relationship is absolutely spectacular. People pay top dollar for relationships. I don't care how much, I'm not going to buy my golf course, my clubs online, but the relationship, Jeffrey, that I have with you is what I will pay a premium for. And also it comes down to loyalty. But let me tell you, one of the fundamental things that Jeffrey was talking about, and what we must create in clubs, is what I call emotional cement. I haven't heard anybody talk about that today. The fact of the matter is, in Golf 3.0, I think relationships will become even more important because we're moving into a technological world where relationships have been tossed into second place because of technology. So I believe that people like Jeffrey and the fitters that you saw up there will have a huge responsibility for making sure clubs are special into the future. Relationships matter, emotional cement matters, and the fitters can help us get there. Love it. Anyway, I'm glad you mentioned it, Jeffrey. Led right in. So hold it just a second, James. I'm looking at you right now, an old geeky guy from Korea right now. And I'm going to ask myself, you know, we call this Golf 3.0. What the hell is Golf 3.0? I have no clue what they're talking about. Give me an education.
I have no idea. Mike came up with this title. However, it was a stroke of genius, really. Because, in fact, golf, the evolution of golf that we know today, can readily be segmented into 3 segments. Golf, in my opinion, Golf 1.0 well describes the origins of golf from the very beginning in Scotland up through, maybe 100 years ago. That was before my time. I'm only 39.
I'm disappointed to hear that. I thought you were closer to 100 in very good shape.
I understand. Golf 2.0 can be readily described as the period of growth that golf experienced after World War II, the Pacific War as we know it here in Asia. That's the period of time when the baby boomers were born after the war in the United States, and then in Europe, and then in Japan, and Korea, and Southeast Asia. They were not all at one time, but every nation in Asia has a baby boom, slightly time different because of history. So the baby boom matured, primarily in the USA, and all of a sudden this massive wave of bodies arrived on the doorsteps of golf clubs and golf courses all over the United States, and then readily behind that in Europe too. We had such a huge market that anybody who could spell golf, G-O-F, right?
G-O-F, that's the way we spell it back in the States.
I know, American education, could be successful in the business of golf. All you had to do is build it, and they came. And you got to declare yourself as a successful expert at the golf business. Would you agree with this, Andy? Somewhat? But now it's changed. That market matured. And now the competition is intense and the level of sophistication has increased. We are now in 3.0. So Mike, I think that was a great description of golf.
Hugely exciting. The mediocre can no longer survive. Is that not true?
The mediocre cannot survive any longer. And unfortunately, we still, I know you guys have read some of my rhetoric speaking about this. In fact, I'm very critical of this. In all aspects of the golf business, we have got too much mediocre. It's 2.0 management
Right.
in a
in a
3.0
3.0
world.
world. Absolutely. Those people are not going to survive, nor will their club survive in that type of world. So a question I have is this. People talk about 3.0, high tech, and most of what we've heard today is about high tech. My question is, and I ask you right now, James, will there be a place for employee service experiences in the future? We saw where you can order your meal without even talking to a person. Do we need employees in the future? What role will they play in making the club industry flourish?
Well, one of the things of this guy that I admire, he likes to describe this as high-tech, high-touch. You can't just turn it over to robots unless you want to have an unpredictable touch, and a rather cold touch at that, although they're making them warm now too. So you can use high-tech technology, as you have heard today described, almost every speaker touched upon it. But you've got to have the high touch. The human touch must be present. That's why they come to the clubs.
James, can I give you an example? I'm looking at Jeffrey again. Jeffrey, I hate to say it, I'm impressed. I'm going to make you a lot of money. I'm going to take 10% of whatever I make for you today, okay? Is that reasonable? I look at Jeffrey over there. High tech says I can contact him online through all the different medias, the apps that you might have, whatever. Jeffrey, I'm hungry for better clubs. I need to improve my game. Can you set me up with a time when I can come in and see you? That's high tech. And there are lots of ways of doing the apps you have and all that. But ultimately, the club experience does not come through the high tech. It'll come by me talking to Jeffrey and having him counsel me on the right club. Or he'll probably counsel me to get into a different game.
Well, you're absolutely right. But even then, the business with high tech, if it's really well done, it's still, Neil, I think Neil mentioned it this morning, I recall. He said word of mouth. It's still word of mouth, but they're using high tech and high speed communication globally now. The people in Delhi that you saw on the screen earlier, they've now developed the same tastes and expectations that the golfers in New York have. In fact, if you look at it, everybody's even starting to look the same, no matter where you go in the world.
So in other words, high tech is letting your members know what's out there in the marketplace, and you better deliver to whatever those expectations have become.
You better deliver, because we now have an extraordinary sophisticated golf market, but it is also extremely competitive. Extremely competitive. The consumer, the golf members, the golfers who pay greens fees, believe me, their discretionary income can be spent on a wide variety of entertainment and recreation. We are competing in golf, we compete amongst ourselves, obviously, but don't you think we're competing as clubs with ski,
Absolutely.
diving?
There are so many options out there now, readily available. I can go online right now and find out how many ski slopes there are in Thailand. Is that not true?
Oh yeah, it's big.
Big business here. The fact of the matter is high tech has given people lots of options in this world. And the question you have, how can your option, which is the golf club experience, distinguish itself in that marketplace? Can I give you an example?
Yes, please.
Two of the clubs that I looked at today that we're discussing were high octane, Mission Hills. When I look at Mission Hills, I see them selling experience. You know, golf happens to be one of the experiences. By way of example, I would suggest Golf 3.0 is actually going to be redefined as Entertainment 3.0, and with golf as one of the entertainments at your club. By way of example, entertainment at your golf club, maybe what you're going to do is use the third hole at 5 o'clock on a Sunday when nobody's using it as a kids' camp-out area. So all of a sudden the parents come down and they say, oh my goodness, we can sit in the dining room, we can drink for hours, we can linger longer, the club will make tons of money, and the kids are entertained on the side. Believe me, we've got to look at a broad spectrum club entertainment experience. And one of the failures that I've run into in the States is that people think it's about golf. No, it's about the entertainment and the social opportunities that golf provides. I don't know anybody. How many of you love to play golf alone? Nobody loves to play golf alone. It is a social experience. So maybe what we're really selling is the social experience. Golf is simply a tool we use, right? What do we have for technology for? Technology is there to bring people together. Now, we talked, somebody, I forget who it was, mentioned touch points. I call them Encounter Masters. I'm looking at Club 59 over there. I'm looking at Simon right now. He's got a brilliant program where you can evaluate the delivery of the product that you have. What is it you're looking for? At my club, and I hate to say it, we're a funky little place on the west coast of California, printing money. Now, how do we do that? Because we are delivering something unique in the club business. We're delivering high-end social KPIs, social key performance indicators. By way of example, you come to be fitted out. Jeffrey, I'm coming back to you again, dude. We could sit down and we say, Jeffrey, I'm going to make sure we spread the word about you. The people buy the clubs, and we know for a fact that they have buyer's remorse. I just spent $3,500 and I'm still a terrible golfer, but I feel good about it. So Jeffrey handwrites a letter. Glad you were down here. I'm sure your game will improve at least 2 strokes for 18 holes or whatever it might be. That relationship. And then on their birthday, because you'll know what their birthday is, because your high tech allows you to understand all of the issues in the demographic of the slice of market that you're dealing with. So all of a sudden on their birthday, Jeffrey says, God, it was so wonderful to have you down here. Happy 93rd birthday. I will come down and buy the clubs just because I want to have that relationship with him. So it's very interesting. I think Golf 3.0 will see the golf club and the golf course as a broad spectrum entertainment situation. Completely different.
And I think it's got to be that way because the competition in entertainment and leisure time, it seems like it's progressing at a mathematical increase. You go out on the street here and see kids walking down the street. How do they walk today? Homo sapiens walked erect, correct? Now they don't walk erect. Now they're like this, walking down the street. The internet is competing with us for their time. And in a way, it's a negative.
But is Top Golf not an entertainment forum, an entertainment platform? So
Absolutely.
why can't we, tell me this, Jimbo, Mr. Korea, tell me, why is it that we can't translate our driving range in Golf 3.0 into a Top Golf experience? How can you do that?
You want my opinion?
Yeah, no.
Well, we can do that. And frankly, the problem with golf is that, generally speaking, golf is still very conservative. And you could also view it as being stuck in a rut.
Hold on, we'll stop right there.
Yeah.
Jack Nicklaus, I think he just opened a course in the United States, 12 holes. Jackie Nicklaus, I ought to show you the promo they did for this golf course. God, bring your kids, bring your family. We do lots of things on this golf course beyond just playing golf. You're going to have fun playing golf. You know, bring your dog, have them walk around with you. Whatever. This is Jack Nicklaus. I think he's a big-time guy, right?
Who is that?
Jackie Nicklaus.
I've heard of him.
And then you look at the Shark. He's going to be with us tomorrow night. That's exciting because we're going to bruise him for about 3 hours, right? Because I want to steal all his ideas. He's made a lot of money, boys and girls. I want to find out what his tricks are. But he's got the Shark effect. Now, what's interesting is he won a lot of money in traditional golf. Is that not true?
That's very true.
But now he's selling golf in a different way. He says maybe the golf cart that you go around is you'll pay a premium for a golf cart that has music in it and GPS and all this madness that millennials like. But I guarantee you what's happening, and keep this in mind about millennials. They're the front edge of the wave of the future. Don't look at millennials as millennials. Look at them as the canaries in the coal mine. They're telling us what everybody wants. I'll give you an example. My mama, 88 years old, is emailing and Skyping every day. Ha ha. So don't tell me it's just millennials. This is what we call cultural lag. These things are passing through an entire culture. So let's take advantage of this. Old geeky people like me, and I'm an old geeky guy. Jeffrey, you're young. You know, I look at you. I'm an old geeky guy, and I bet a nickel a lot of what the millennials want, I want too.
I couldn't agree more. One of the things that Greg is, I think, fond of saying is that general managers need to be generalists. You pointed that out.
Absolutely. Generalists.
Tell me your thinking on that.
Let me tell you, first of all, in Golf 3.0, the general manager is the umbrella beneath which the entire operation runs. So the first thing you need to have is an understanding of the entire club experience. I do work with the PGA back in Canada, the United States, and they are trying to get their PGA pros to become club managers, right? So I go to them, I talk about becoming a deep generalist, because I said, people love you. You're the golf pro, but you can't run an operation unless you have a deep generalist understanding. So how do you get there? You become a deep specialist first, the golf pro or the service manager, whatever it might be. But then the educational process in Golf 3.0 must be able to bring those people up to a deeper understanding of the club experience. Far more than just, I could take Jeffrey, because he's got the goods. Sorry, Jeffrey. And I could translate him into a club manager given enough time. He may be a fitter, but a great fitter understands relationship building and community. And so I said, okay, now we can go from there. Big issue.
You know, again, I mentioned we're stuck in a rut, Greg. How do we get this, how do we get out of the rut? How do we remove what I see as myopic vision by management in golf?
What we need,
we're stuck in this golf thinking. What do we need? How do we get new people in?
Three things right off the bat. First of all, each of you who want to become a great general manager should have a mentor relationship with somebody who is a great manager, who's old and geeky, long in the tooth. I'm not going to get some kid right out of college who's a fitter. I'm going to go to Jeffrey. Do you understand? So in order to get that deeper understanding of the club experience, identify talent. Create a relationship with that talent. Create a mentor-mentee relationship. That's the first thing. Secondly, education. There are two types. Structured transfer of knowledge. You can do that online for the basics. But classroom experiences are critical. In the States, I work with the Club Managers Association, and they have a Business Management Institute program. 5 days. There are 5 different classes. I teach 2 and 5. The fact is, they're a 5-day experience. So what do you get out of that? You get 1, technical training and a deeper understanding. You get a relationship that you built with other people in your community because you're with them for 5 days, and you have a direct relationship with the educators. So that's number 2. So, and then the next thing that you need is you need an experiential foundation and the opportunity to reflect deeply on that experience. Now, how do you do that? 1, you talk to people on a regular basis, doing demands debrief at the end of each day. The other thing that you can do is you can write, which is a fabulous way to do it. So we've got to break out of that hole. Now, the problem is, if you think you're going to get a deeper understanding of the business by reading industry publications, you are probably mistaken.
Myopic.
Myopic. How do we break through? Tell me this then. How do we break through this myopia, which is a problem for management?
In my opinion, it's pretty simple. You got to take the blinders off, and you've got to look beyond golf. We've got to be looking at other industries that are related, other hospitality industries, hotel business, the restaurant business. That's also, I think, a fruitful area to recruit from, as long as you got a golf club mentoring system in place, so that we can fine-tune them into the nuances of golf.
One of the tragedies that I found in Students 3.0, and I'll give it to you right now, is that they want to be at the top without going through what I call the wisdom process. What is wisdom? Wisdom is education and experience and reflection on that, from which you draw first principles and practices. And they think they come out of school and all of a sudden they are there. Jeffrey, you've probably done 10,000 fittings. As a consequence, you have wisdom, right? We need people with wisdom who we surround. So one of the ways that you get it is by coming to a conference like the Asia Pacific Golf Summit. Your job now is to identify interesting people who you can ask questions of, from which you'll draw insight and understanding. By way of example, everyone who's spoken here today, I'm looking at Andy right there. I was sitting beside him and bothering him the whole time. I kept asking him questions. Is that not true? I didn't tell you nothing. But you know what I do? I'm writing down all his answers, and I'm going to translate it into money. So thank you a lot, Andy. But the fact of the matter is, you are here. One of the questions that I could have done, if you were in the BMI program, the Business Management Institute, people go out for lunch, and the first thing I do when they come back is, okay, everybody has to tell me what was the big thematic issue you addressed at lunchtime. That's it. Huh? They say, what are you talking about? I said, do not waste your time here. All knowledge is question-driven. So if we're going to break out of it, curiosity is nature's original school of education. I'll give you an example. This hotel hasn't opened yet, but a lot of chefs are here from all over Asia. My wife and I end up talking to all of them. You ask questions. Oh, tell me about what are the challenges you have in getting staff here? Boom. So we got to break out of the boxes that we're in. You will not get a deeper understanding of the human condition from reading industry publications. You have to step outside.
I agree 100%. And Greg, we've had an issue here, a problem in the growth of the club business and golf in Asia. And it touches on this mentoring factor. The reality, what's been our challenge here in Asia? Golf is relatively new, except for perhaps the first golf course outside of Scotland or the UK in India. Golf's pretty new even to Japan, Korea, Philippines. We haven't had the years of an experience to develop the mentors, but now it's happened. Now we've got a generation of professional Asian managers to mentor the next generation.
By way of example, I'm going to talk about Asia for a second. I think there's still a colonial mindset in some of Asia, James. You know, the idea that, oh, us Europeans or us Americans know better. What do you think
Colonial
of that?
thinking.
Colonial thinking. Believe me, I'm horrified by it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, a friend of mine, in fact, one of my best friends in the world, Shimizu in Japan, he is the president of the Japan Pearl Exporters Association. He would always say, Jim-san, colonial thinking. I said, what are you talking about, colonial thinking? Of course, we all know that Japan was the only Asian nation that was never colonized.
But
by
they colonialized
Western
the rest of
states.
Asia.
So they kind of view it as a different thing. And the colonial thinking really was the Occidentals coming over here and colonizing. But that's carried over somewhat. It's carried over into corporations colonizing. And even to a degree of a lot of expat expertise coming to Asia and colonizing the club industry and other industries, dive industry, you name it. But we got to break this colonial thinking. Colonial thinking is passé, it's over with. Now we have to, our obligation, in my opinion, Greg, as an expat, is to be a teacher, a mentor of the guys who work for me, so I can go away as an expat.
So they can step on your shoulders, move you on. You just mentioned Japan. I remember one time you and I were talking about haiku, you know, interesting poetry.
haiku, yeah.
Haiku. And it's interesting, I think Golf 2.0 believes that the R&A in Scotland is the Godhead. Do you think the Godhead is appropriate for Golf 3.0? Talk to me about the changes that are going on.
Well, first off, we have to understand that the rules of golf with the R&A in cooperation with the United States Golf Association, it's important. It's important. It's the rules of golf, and the rules of golf have great value. But, you know, I was a USGA committee person for many years, and I worked 14 U.S. Opens on the rules committee. But the reality is, the guys, and they're good friends of mine, you know, Alan Katniss from R&A, Sandy Tatum, past president of USGA, good guys, but they're all lawyers.
Didn't Shakespeare say, first we kill the lawyers?
Yes, he did. So
Maybe
the
in
reality
golf,
is,
maybe possible in Golf 3.0, we have to kill the lawyers. What do
well,
you think?
in haiku, the master, Matsuo, he was the master of haiku. Japanese haiku poetry is very demanding. You have to say the most you possibly can with the fewest possible words. That's why Americans can't master it. But the reality is simple. There are strict rules in haiku poetry, very strict. And so what Basho, the master, said, you must first learn the rules. Then forget the rules.
Then forget the rules. Because do you think that a 3.0 golf millennial wants to memorize 1,100 pages of rules that were given to them, handed down by a constipated group of people at the R&A back in St. Andrews?
Well,
What do you think?
Again, the rules are important for organized competitions at a highly competitive level. Even in the clubs, they're very important. You must learn the rules. I'm not saying don't rule. You must respect the rules. But for us operators of golf clubs, I'm sorry, we don't. At Sky 72, my boss is a genius. We don't pay attention to the rules. In Japan, they have play four. If you go OB, you don't go back to the tee. You go forward and drop a ball in a newly defined teeing area in the landing area. It keeps the pace of play going. What's wrong with that? At Sky 72, my boss has, he says on every 9 holes, we need a 12-inch cup. We put it out there. The golfers love it. Especially it helps on weak greens. Andy, it works on weak greens. You're under stress on a green, you put a 12-inch cup, they're on and off the green like dancers,
Jimbo,
without much wear.
But I understood you're not supposed to have fun playing golf.
You're supposed to have fun.
No, you're not supposed to have fun. That's
No,
why
you're supposed to have fun.
You're supposed to have. So the 12-inch hole is a legitimate thing to do, correct?
Yeah.
So why is it that more people aren't willing to adopt it? Because when 90% of your golfers come in...
Myopic vision.
What's that?
Myopic vision.
Myopic vision. So who has given them that myopic vision? Golf 3.0. I guarantee you right now, if you go in the United States, back to Los Angeles where I'm from, take 20 people off the street, just randomly, and say, give me a word that characterizes golf for you. 20 people right off the street. Say you're in Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, wherever you might be. They'll probably say boring. You think I'm wrong? They will probably say boring. So what do we need to do in Golf 3.0? We have to add more zings per minute, right? How do we do that? This is where relationships come in. The starter at your club, you know, they talk about all this electronic stuff. That's fine, and I agree with that. But when you get in there, the starter that touches you has to be able to give you the buzz, the love, and the glow. Is that not true?
Absolutely. We've got to remember that we are in the fun business, the happiness business, to steal Disney's old motto. We're in the happiness business. And if we don't have a passion as managers for satisfying people, for providing service, even could be put as being a servant to our customers and to our members, my advice is go find another business. You're in the wrong business.
So Golf 3.0 is going to be highly competitive. Is that not true?
It is highly
and we
competitive.
are starting to arrive in that place where we're now.
Absolutely.
Too much product and too few people playing it. So I'm talking to students now. And they're asking me, oh, Greg, what skill set do I need? Or what qualities do I need to be a success in Golf 3.0 as a general manager?
Oh, that's a great question. But frankly, Greg, you're the guy who can answer that question better than I, but I'll throw one out for you.
Okay. Would you like me to answer it?
Yeah, please.
First of all, people relationships are everything. That is number one. I like to tell people, and you may disagree with me, 75% of what a great manager does is people, staff, and members. 25% is the stuff. That's my thing. When it comes to buying clubs, 75% of what I pay is the relationship I create while I buy those clubs. And I like to say this, throw this out. I say 3.0 clubs will never lose sight of this. Those that are successful. They thank you for the machinery, thank you for the clubs, Jeffrey. But they remember you for the points. You thank you for the 45 minutes you spent with me who can't play golf worth a good goddamn, and you made me feel like a young god. That's what it is. So the first thing is developing people skills. And the problem that I have with undergraduates, because I deal with a lot of these, they're business students now. I come from a tradition where you're a maitre d', right? The idea that you create relationships. These kids come out, they can do regression analysis, but they can't explain to the finance committee the philosophy behind the numbers that you just realized on that. By way of example, sorry, coming back, thank you for being there, Jeffrey. People say, oh, a manager might not be able to justify a high-end fitter. Because, oh, we can't make any money on it. You're not in the business of making money. You're in the business of loyalty, usage patterns, linger time, correct? So all of a sudden, that translates very, very directly into sales opportunities, very directly into loyalty opportunities. That emotional cement is absolutely fundamental. We have to give that to managers. Next thing is they've got to master technology. I mean, that competence is job one. We have to accept those of us who are in the second generation, I'm still Golf 2.0 in many ways. The technology bores me to tears. The idea that you can call up, or you don't even need to call up, you can make a reservation online is anathema to me. I come from a small club. I want you to call up, and Marilyn is at the desk. And she says, Greg, how's it going, big boy? She makes me feel good. We talk for 3 minutes. Is it inefficient? It's absolutely inefficient. But let me tell you, my wife and I dine at the Beach Club 3 days a week, minimum. Actually, we're down there 5 or 6 days a week if I'm in town, because we love the relationships. From the guy in the parking lot that comes in, waves to me and calls me, Greg, how's it going, big boy? I like the big boy thing, right? And you walk through the front door, and the two people at the front desk call out your name and you wave to you. You know how much that's worth in this world? Huh? Do you understand what you're paying for? You're not paying for the clubs or the food. You're paying for the relationship, the touches, the Club 59 experience. What are the 300 touches that you will have as you walk through that club? We must master those, because the emotional cement that drives your success comes from relationship building. That sounds enough. All the stuff I listen to today is about technology. You need it. But Golf 3.0 says we must master technology, but we're going to make the service experience, the people experience, the best it's ever been. That is a coup. I loved what you're talking about. I mean, that's why when Mr. Dubai over here, Mr. Troon Golf was talking, I loved it because I came up and immediately said to you, I was a trench digger. I'd like to take each of your principles and say, let's translate it into 30 practices that we can do and train our staff in. It's not about throwing money at it. It's about having a vision that combines technology and the people side of the equation. Very exciting.
Greg, let's talk a little bit about the management styles of 2.0 in that in the old days of mediocrity being successful,
right,
we could compartmentalize staffers, put them in one box. And how about how the influence of Confucian thinking has been active here in Asia. But talk about 2.0, how it was in the past.
First of all,
how did you deal with
Confucian thinking, am I wrong? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like about getting along. Let's be in harmony.
Harmony.
Let us not create waves.
Exactly.
Well, Golf 3.0 is about creating waves. I'll give you an example. I love this quote. The idea, the foundation of success is a catalog of failures. And one of the problems that you get when you have a constipated 2.0 environment, they don't want to risk anything.
Absolutely.
So the 3.0 environment is there for the entrepreneurs of the world, the people who are willing to risk and to throw themselves out into the marketplace and fail a little bit. We don't talk about failure, we talk about data points, right? That they need to learn. Golf 3.0 is so competitive that we have to get the very best. And the only way we know if that works for us is to try it and fail quickly and happily. It sounds crazy. Maybe we should put the fitter in the lobby. No, I mean, there are all sorts of wild things. People say, oh, you can't do that. I was just in Quito, Ecuador, of all crazy goddamn places. They had the pro shop in the lobby. I thought it was fabulous. I mean, for me. And they have a dancing monkey there. So you walk, no, not really. And you walk in and you just want to talk to this gal. You got coffee there, the popcorn's going, you hang around. You don't want to leave the pro shop. Now, believe me, when you're in there, you'll get a conscience. I better buy something, right? My wife's waiting for me back at Los Angeles. I better buy something. Dumbest thing you can ever do, right? But it's interesting. Golf 3.0 being a competitive environment, look at it. He's going to show us his...
I'm just warming up.
No, he's going to show us now the guns. Show us the guns, right? No. Wrong gun. So, Jeffrey, so I look at it, and what does a general manager need to be a success in the future? The big thing is passion. Is that not true?
Absolutely.
Now, that's been true from 1, 2, and 3. But it used to be that the passion was a specialist passion. I have a passion for wine. I have a passion for golf. What you need in Golf 3.0 is a passion for the entire club experience.
Absolutely.
The entire experience. It is not good enough to be impassioned about wine. And I grew up in a tradition where the manager was knowledgeable about wine. You got to know a little bit about it. But you better know as much about the golf course, which he never went on. So it would be a failure in Golf 3.0. This generalist idea is a huge issue. And your staff need to have the same thinking as you do.
I just absolutely couldn't agree more. In Japan, there's a saying in Japanese, the nail that stands up gets pounded down. Well, how does that work? How does that work in developing talent? It doesn't. It doesn't. And it sure as heck wasn't the Toyota style or Kaizen approach to things. How about another skill of great managers?
I would say...
do you have to have all the answers as a general manager?
No, I think you don't have to have all the answers, but you have to have a passion for the pursuit of those answers. Somebody comes to me and say, oh, Greg, how do we go about fitting clubs? I said, I don't have a clue, but I've got somebody in my network. So I'd say one of the things that a Golf 3.0 manager needs is a great network of professionals he can appeal to. So I said, oh, I love you, baby. I'll be right back to you. I'll give you an email tonight. I run over to Jeffrey. I said, Jeffrey, I don't have a clue. He's my mentor. What should I tell them about that? So I'll come back to you. So they've got to be able to pursue things. They've got to have a curiosity and a willingness to pursue. But communication skills are going to be critical. By way of example, in Golf 3.0, I think that those short abbreviated messages using I, you, whatever it might be.
All those code words.
People want a more personalized experience than that. Let's have some dialogue. I think one of the gifts that is being lost in what people perceive as 3.0 is the human factor. Can you communicate? How about, I'll give you an example. I was talking to Andy about this. If you've got staff, 60% of what they communicate is body language. Is that not true? You were talking about
absolutely.
that. I agree 100%.
Nonverbal.
When you pointed that out back in Dubai, right, I immediately went over and said, you got to have what do they call them, a mime. Bring in a mime because they're funny. Have them with the staff. They never talk, right? But they express things. Oh, I like you, or I don't like you, right? Whatever it might be. We need to teach our staff to be expressive. So Golf 3.0, the staff are no longer enough just to have them put the stuff out. They have to be as expressive as they can be. They should be actors. They should have classes. Bring in an actor. Believe me, in Los Angeles, these guys are cheap. That's all I can tell you. They're real cheap. But they can tell you. What does an actor tell you? 10% of what you communicate is the words. You're a waiter. You're a golf fitter. 10% is the words. Oh, that shaft is too short or too long. 30% of what you communicate is emphasis. You know, Greg, that shaft's way too long. Emphasis. 60% of what you communicate is body language in this world, right? And these are skills that are being lost when people look at their cell phones. Well, whatever they call these goddamn things, right? I say in Golf 3.0, if you want to distinguish your operation, you are able to do what I call addressing the human condition, right? One-on-one, whatever it might be. Using high tech to help you have that relationship. I love it.
Let's pursue this compartmentalization of 2.0 a little bit further. Okay? Andy reminded me today of, we started in this business in 2.0, as you probably did as well. 2.0.
1.0 for me.
I'm only 39. We started off this business as 2.0. We started this business as golf course superintendents, right? But we didn't go for getting pounded down like a nail in Japan. Andy expanded into design, into general management. This is what you need today in 3.0. You can't hire just a whole bunch of specialists. They've got to be able to cross over. In nature, we see cross-pollination for evolution. We have to evolve from 2.0 to 3.0.
Let me give you an example of 2.0 thinking. I hire a guy to run my Toro mower, right? All I want you to do, dude, is go that way and come back this way. Golf 3.0 says that you're going to have the tech opportunity to recognize a face and a name. So you're on the machine, you've had a six-pack of Singha beer in you, you wave to Andy and say, oh, Mr. Andy, good to see you. That's Golf 3.0, using high tech to create high touch. Like what's the name? My mind went blank. The stuff that signals what's going on. You know, you go by, when you walk by, people are alerted to who you are. Your photograph comes up. They know something about you. All of a sudden, I talk to James and say, James, what's it like to live in a place where it snows 11 months a year? So we can have a conversation. High tech to create a high-touch relationship. Golf 2.0, nobody gave a good goddamn. There was too little product for the amount of people. They didn't have to hone their game. Huge issue right there.
Let's take getting your hands around an understanding of the technology of fertilizers,
right,
and getting cost control on fertilizers. How can we go about doing that? By cross-tabulating, cross-pollinating.
Absolutely. I think that's the key right there. And that's why I like liberal thinkers. As a matter of fact, you talk to a lot of great business people, and they were undergraduates majors in humanities, right? The liberal arts. Why? Because liberal arts say that many things are intertwined. So by the time you become a specialist, you start out your career as a deep generalist, you become a deep specialist right out of school, and then if you are fortunate, you evolve into a deep generalist again. Isn't that interesting, the way that works? And the cross-fertilization of ideas. You are the pollen in my life, Jimbo. How's that?
That's good. I learned the cost control in fertilizers by suddenly having imposed on me getting controls of the beverage in my club.
Right.
And I learned methodology and spreadsheets and analysis, measurements, weights, whatever. I turned around and said, wow, that would work in fertilizers. So we've got to break out of this 2.0 compartmentalization thinking. We've got to think about the rules of golf and basho and haiku and learn the rules, but forget the rules. We need to cross-train our staffs.
What about this? You're a Golf 3.0 manager. You see the course as an entertainment opportunity.
Absolutely.
But yet I have a golf pro from Scotland, right, who is golf 1.0, not 2.0. And the minute you say, oh, we should actually translate on 1 day a month the driving range into a top golf experience, what will their answer be?
Well,
No.
Laddie,
No, Laddie, no.
if he really is a 1.0, the communication probably stopped right there and then. But if he's a 3.0, is going to be very open to it. In fact, he may even go and get the greenkeeper and say, I think this week you need to work up in the restaurant so you have a better understanding of what goes on in food and beverage. And he may even take the chef out on the golf course and show him around as well.
As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example of
We
developing
used
your
to do
staff.
these kind of things.
I love it. Developing your staff as 3.0 staff. All of you have supervisors in different departments. I bet a nickel I can go in with a template I use to evaluate you as a supervisor, straight out of my supervisor certification program, and they don't know. That is not good enough anymore. That is 2.0 thinking. How many of you have a supervisor certification course that nobody can run a department at your club until they've gone through that program? Even if you hire somebody who's already whatever it is you're looking for, a chef, a golf pro, whatever it might be. I bet nobody does. But that's golf 2.0 thinking. Don't you understand? We've got to step beyond it. Those guys are no longer competitive anymore. Those people have to be transformed into 3.0 thinkers. So who's going to do that?
The general manager.
The general manager.
Absolutely. Now, you came into the club business from where? Outside of the club business?
Outside of the club business.
You were in the hotel business.
I was at the hotel business.
Talk about how the value of the experience in the hotel hospitality has helped you.
The best experience in a hotel for clubs is the front desk, right? Because at the front desk, you have about 3 minutes to create a relationship. So I created a whole program called Dating the Members. How many have a program called Dating the Members? Right. What is a date? The first date that you have in your life, you sit down. Now they do it online. We meet at Starbucks. Because in 20 minutes, you can say, piss off, Jimbo, I don't want to see you again. Or no, that's what they do. Your job on the first date is to create a conversation. How many of you have a course for all of your staff in conversation creation? Huh? That is Golf 3.0 we're talking about, right? We're talking about Golf 3.0 expects that. The guy that just cleans the balls for you, cleans your shoes, that ain't enough anymore. That sort of thing is critical to your success. 3.0 thinking.
In Japan, I worked for an investment company that bought up bankrupt properties in golf. American. They went back to the USA, both Goldman Sachs and Lone Star, two different competing companies, and they hired American talent because the Japanese thought they needed American management. So what did the Americans do that I observed? The Americans, which I was part of the contingent, they come into the Japanese clubs and they look, we got to change all this. This is not American style. They did it without even looking and evaluating what some of the practices the Japanese clubs had that could be cross-pollinated with the American practice to improve service and satisfaction. One of them, in Korea, my boss, great guy, very smart. He is Korean, but he kind of cross-pollinated American style. He went to Japan. He went all around the world. And this guy is sharp. He took and created a whole new 3.0 style of management way back, probably in 2.0 time. Mr. Kim is unbelievable. And we're doing 120,000 rounds a year on a couple of our golf courses. 7-minute starting times, intervals. Impossible back in the USA. So we need to cross-pollinate, too, to break the myopic thinking in golf.
Absolutely. You got to hear from others. And that's why the Asia-Pacific Golf Summit is so good, because you got people coming from everywhere. You will learn from Dubai if you reach out and ask the question. But I guarantee you, most people go out tonight and have a drink, and they say, oh, isn't Bangkok hot? Yes, it is. Isn't it sticky? Yes, it is. The fact of the matter is, I'm sitting with Mark right there. I'm going to steal all his ideas. The questions are the key. 3.0 managers know they can get educated without having to spend anything to do so. Is that not true? By way of example, you can go online, go to Google right now, and say, creative program for private clubs. Try it. And all of a sudden, you'll get 100,000 hits. The 3.0 manager knows that if they're willing to do the research, the education is there for them free. That's what it comes down to. You don't have to. Golf 2.0 or education 2.0. Oh, you've got to get a master's degree. You got to go to Stanford. You got to go to Cornell.
Easy
whatever
now.
it might be. No, easy now too. You guys. Anyway, I won't go after you. That's okay. But the fact of the matter is, that's 2.0 thinking, is it not?
That's definitely 2.0.
3.0. You don't need to go to university. You don't need the badge that says you went to Stanford, right? The fact of the matter is, you've got to have curiosity, because in 3.0, the technology exists where you can get everything you ever want. Except the badge most of the time. You want to understand financial statement analysis? You can take courses from Harvard for free in financial statement. Harvard Business for free. So 3.0 says the education's out there. It's free and accessible, but you got to reach out and grab it. So that's a whole change in thinking right there. But now talk about program. I'm going to give you a scenario, Jimbo. And you're going to tell me, all of a sudden, Jimbo, I think I'm going to get in the club business, right? I'm going to buy a club. My wife says, Greg, don't go 18 holes. You can't walk 18. Buy a 9-hole golf course. Huh? So, Jimbo, I just gave you a 9-hole golf course to run. What sort of program, 3.0 program, might you introduce into that 9-hole golf course to make you the big bucks?
9 holes.
Now, yeah, I like. Is he a
So-
traditionalist?
No.
A little constipated? Absolutely.
Can you give me a location?
No, you tell me the location.
Well, I think the first thing you have to impose all the things that we've been talking about. First thing I'd do is I go in and make a good assessment of what my resources were there with the staff. And then I'd start to analyze what I had
So
to
what
do to
type of
improve.
staff profile would you have in a 3.0 9-hole golf course?
Very versatile. There'd be a lot of cross-tabulation or cross-pollination.
Do you hear this?
Of staff. You can't afford a
Cross-fertilization.
big staff. 9 point with a 9-hole golf course. We may have 5 employees, but turning a great profit.
Fabulous. So what else would you have there? What sort of programming would you put in that we might be thinking about with an 18-hole golf course?
Versus an 18.
First of all, the minute you say 18, is it not true, Jimbo? People get really RNA thinking.
First thing, it's something that Andy touched upon when he was speaking. He made a great point that I wanted to jump up and go, yeah. He pointed out that you need a golf course in the golf business. So why can't we give them a 9-hole championship golf course that has the same playing conditions and quality that Sentosa has? Because I know if I did that, then I could go out and sell it.
So we accept that people have less time to play now.
That's true.
My 9-hole golf course, maybe I'd say this. We're going to have a state championship of 9-hole golf courses, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to have the championship at my course to begin with, because most people want to play less than more now because they don't have the time. So what we're going to do, we're going to start a whole new trend. We're going to get a couple of pros that will come in here and play that 9-hole golf course and show people that you're going to have a hell of a good time on a shorter course right off the bat. And then you will spend the 2 hours you didn't spend on the golf course afterwards lingering longer in the bar operation.
This is true, even though there's a lot of DUI laws now in many places.
No, you must have Uber.
Maybe we
You must have
provide
Uber.
a driver service.
Right.
Like we have, here in Asia, we have that service. In Korea, in Japan, you want to go out and pound it and you're driving, you pick up a phone and dial like a 3-digit number, and and a driver shows up and drives your car and you home.
So
And for
3.0
dirt
golf.
cheap.
3.0 golf, because of Uber and Lyft and all the other options that are available out there for ride service, you no longer can give me the excuse that nobody lingers in your bar because they're afraid to drink and drive. And I hear this all the time in Europe. I said, hold it, you're in Birmingham, England. There's Uber over here, right? I go to London, it's everywhere. So 3.0 says the roadblocks that once existed can now be overcome because there's a profit to be had in that environment.
Greg, you touched upon what a great general manager needs to be in 3.0, and that a great general manager does not need to have all the answers, but tell me about your thoughts on he needs to know how to ask the questions.
He knows how, well, first of all, that's one of the big things. What are the questions that you need to ask? You know, and when it comes to members, first of all, I'll give you an example. At my club, we had the questions of consequence. Every employee was versed in the 150 questions they'll probably be asked at some point during the time, right off the bat. It might be, when was the club founded? Who was the original architect? How many members were in the original club? All your staff must know that. In Golf 3.0, they don't look at staff as ninnies anymore. The fact is they looked at them as like they do their cell phone. You, the staff, must be able to deliver to me the same sort of insight and information that I can get on my cell phone now. That's one thing. So, the answers. The key thing is always asking questions. First of all,
Always asking
the
questions.
key and fundamental when I teach conversation is ask questions. There's no mystery to it.
I
Questions.
learned some great rules in asking questions early on. Unfortunately, it was because of experience in dealing with lawyers and litigation. I did notice that the really good lawyers knew how to ask the questions. And they knew when they were getting the answers they wanted. They were persistent. They always asked at least 5 questions
To get to
in
the
a
answer.
row. And that's also Japanese management style, Kaizen.
Right. Well, one of the things when we're talking about 3.0, when we're talking about the electronics in 3.0, when somebody comes into your dining room, you should know some of the things that they love doing. Like I happen to love motorcycles. So I guarantee if you come up to me as a staff person, oh, Mr. Patterson, great to see you. Have you been riding your motorcycle lately? All of a sudden we have a conversation. Emotional cement gets developed. High tech being used for high touch. But the high tech alone, and what I heard is, oh, you can know everything about your members, but nobody mentioned today how the staff can use that information to create a stronger relationship with the people that they're dealing with. Fascinating issue.
How important in 3.0 is staff training?
Staff training is huge. And I would say, again, in Golf 2.0, being mediocre was good enough. That isn't acceptable anymore. Every manager, and I was just in Australia doing this thing, I was horrified by it. So these were all general managers that I had, and we were doing a workshop. So I said, okay, every table had like 5 or 6 people at it. I said, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to come up with the outline of how you take a street person and translate them into a club person, a club employee. It was awful, I have to tell you. And these were the general managers of their organization. I bet I could go around the room right now and say, okay, you got 5 minutes, come up with what you do with your employees. It ain't going to work in 3.0 because dumb employees will submarine your operation. So training, I mean, you have to have an orientation period. I mean, how many general managers orient every new employee personally? Because you, as an employee, get the example of the good from the GM. Is that not true?
Absolutely.
The top dog, who signs my check? That's what they're looking for. Then the orientation to the staff. Then the mentorship period, or whatever, I call it boot camp, whatever you call yours. And then you keep them. How do you do up-briefs each day and debriefs? How do you keep kids inspired about the golf experience? One of the problems I ran into in Australia, I'll just give you an example. They said, oh, the staff are bored. Well, who do I blame? Not the staff, I blame the management team. So you have to have tactics for doing so. Those days are gone. Staff have lots of options now. Is that not true?
Absolutely.
They don't have to stay with you anymore. They're not going to be wedded to your operation just because they can't get another job.
Especially
They're
with
gone.
labor shortages all over in Japan, Korea, and the United States.
Give you an example. One of the questions that we asked the chef, my wife was asking the chef last night, oh, because she's done work here for, in the oil business for like 20 years. 20 years ago, there were a ton of staff that you could get because they needed the jobs. Asked the chef, oh, how difficult it is to find people. Terribly difficult, he said. Huh? And you have this assumption that it's easy to find people. It isn't. So you've got to create in Golf 3.0 the type of work environment that stimulates, educates, and encourages people. That is key for you, the manager. And I bet a nickel, most of the clubs that I can go to anywhere in the world have no organized way of making that transfer of information.
Now, Greg doesn't know I know this about him. But I went to Cal Poly Pomona as an undergraduate, okay? Well, Cal Poly Pomona, the motto was learn by doing. Experiential learning. Tell me about this because I know you've been involved with the hospitality program at Cal Poly.
Huge. Most of what you learn, you do not learn in the classroom. Everybody should know that. You don't learn it in seminars. You learn it incrementally and continuously, one small thing at a time. So when you talk about continuous education, I'll just give you something you can do right tomorrow when you go back to your club or the next day. 1, continuous learning. You have an up-brief in the morning. Before the staff begins, each department does an up-brief by your certified supervisor. And part of that is the educational component. Have a jar on your desk. Each job has about 50 different components to it. I don't tell them how to do it. It's just a series of questions. Oh, what direction should the lines go on a tablecloth in a banquet, right? And so people talk about it. And then you have a video, a 2-minute video that you can show using staff that exist in the operation. Oh, this is what we're doing. Do the interviewing. You do an iPhone 6. I still got a 6, not a 10, right? You could do it with an iPhone. All of a sudden, you show that. So that's continuous education in the morning and stimulating. At the end of the day, you do a debrief. Doing demands debrief. You're educating during the debrief. One, we start with a question of the day. So you point out somebody, like at this table, I'd say, Steve, question of the day. They know somebody's going to get asked, so they all have it. So we learn because we answer questions. And then we say, okay, give me your story of the day. Most stories of the day are bitches and moans. Is that not true? And they're usually about problems that they run into. So you're educating people on how to deal with this. This is what you should do with your children at the dinner table at night. Oh, what's your question of the day? What's your story of the day? And sharing those stories becomes part of that educational process. But you, the manager, might be able to do it, but you're too busy doing all sorts of things like sleeping under your desk or whatever it might be. You have to make sure your supervisors understand the process that is needed to translate employees or street people into great employees and to continuously educate them. The problem is most people do not learn out of a book. How many people have a child, 5 years of age, they give them the 10 rules that they must do in the house that night? They don't remember it. One lesson at a time is how you teach. Is that not true?
Absolutely. And repeat
Have some
it.
fun. So one of the 3.0 things that I would say is that you have to hire supervisors who love to educate people. Huh? They just really dig it. How many people have had supervisors, I don't have time to do that?
And there's an old saying in education, if you want to learn a subject, you teach the subject.
Absolutely.
So you have your supervisors do the training. We can't afford training. We can't afford consultants to do training. You've got the expertise. Maybe they may not be the world class yet, but when you put them up in front of an audience.
But as part of your upbrief, you do the professor of the day as well. So the professor of the day, you point out, Jimbo, put your hand in the thing. So then you have to explain what's going on. You try that for a while. People aren't shy anymore. You ever notice that? Staff are shy. They won't be after they've been telling stories, acting as the teacher for the day. They truly come to understand. And then you say, Jimbo, you answered how to open a bottle of wine in a very special way. I'm going to do a video of you. We're going to put it on the member website, right? And they're going to hit a link, and we're going to send out, we just did a couple of videos. Hit the link for the people, for Jose doing the opening of the bottle. But they shut you down.
I think you wore it out.
So what you do, that's part of that process. They become a teacher. With every pair of hands you hire, a brain comes free. Take advantage of that. That's part of creating emotional cement, and you've got to be able to use it on a regular basis in a way that doesn't represent money. I've just given you tricks that you can do. It costs you nothing, and you will get a 3.0 club experience in very short order.
The other thing I can tell you to add to what Greg has said, the more you train, the less you have to manage. The more you train, the less you have to manage. Now, let's talk about another favorite subject of yours, HR in 3.0. Tell me what you think HR is going to be, not yet, because we are so specialized. When I started off as a general manager, my HR department was myself as the GM and my secretary. I wrote all the policies and manuals. I mean, we didn't have HR specialists. I know there may be some HR guys in here, so I don't want to offend you, because you're worth your money if you do your job. But tell me about 3.0.
Let's go Golf 3.0. We're talking about HR, the human resource component. How can we translate all that technology into HR? One, administrative HR is being outsourced at every level. Is that not true? So in your club, that's just routine stuff. You don't need to do that. But what HR really is about, in my judgment, is staff development. Your HR people must be specialists in creating educational programs, in creating counseling programs, creating mentorship programs. Golf 3.0 says if it can be done by a machine, get rid of it, right? Which is great. Get rid of the administrative side of HR. Make people responsible for going on and checking it, confirming it, doing all that stuff. Take your HR professional as a development person. They're on a mission from God to bring education to that community, right? To counsel people. They have a problem at home. What you want is somebody in HR that can talk to them and give them a mentorship arrangement. We know what it's like when you're married, you have 7 kids, and you've got 3 mistresses. It can be difficult. They want a shoulder to cry on. I want an HR person who also can be, I call it alone time with Papa. You know, they can go in and they can relieve themselves of it. HR is not about administration. That's administrative human resources. Real HR is about developing people, counseling those people, coaching those people. That's what's going to happen in 3.0. Because everybody knows, you go into most clubs around the world, who is the HR person? It's an accountant. Is it not true? They don't know diddly about development. That's not their ball game. They do the administrative side exceptionally well. Golf 3.0 will not find that acceptable anymore.
Too many times I've gone into clubs that were in trouble, and even recently. And you'll say, well, we need to do this. Well, we'll run that through HR. What the hell does HR know about running a golf course and what do we need out there? It gets to the point where I think there's a propensity in management for bureaucratizing everything. That's what 2.0 was. It was bureaucracy and ineptitude. Can't afford that anymore in 3.0. And at my 9-hole golf course, which Greg gave to me,
we can make some big money on this one,
There's
Jimbo.
not going to be an HR. I will be HR. Right. No overhead.
Right. No overhead. But that's actually one of the things. I used to be the chief educator at our club. You know, obviously there's a global education. That was my job.
CEO.
Give you an example. Golf 3.0 will have an internal university in it. How's that? Education. 2 types of university you'll have. It's a skills transfer university, which is how to do your job better. The other one is how to do your life better. I used to use Beach Club University. We had 2 hours each week. Anybody could go, and I pay you for being there. So you got all these people coming in, and we might talk about financial statement analysis. It has nothing to do with being a busboy. Or it might have to do with what are the difference in insurance rates, and why do they exist as that? What about interest? Where do you invest your money? These are things, or how do you deal, what sort of lessons should you give your children so they become productive adults? I mean, believe me, Golf 3.0 is not just about the golf course. It's about developing your people in a very special way. So
I can't argue with that. I totally agree.
Okay,
and
so
you've almost left me wordless. Or speechless.
But believe me, Jimbo, leaving you wordless and speechless that's a victory, Jimbo. That's all I can tell you. So the time is pretty much up. Does anybody have any questions about what we should be doing to make Golf 3.0? I'll give you one thing we didn't touch on. What sort of programming should you have there? Most people think it's just about golf. Well, how can you make that golf programming experience more special? Have somebody, your golf pro, skydive in and delivers the opening golden ball for your championship tournament or whatever it might be. We have to think outside the proverbial box. We have to toss Confucian thinking into the sink. The waste bin, that's what we're going to do. We're going to toss Confucian thinking into the waste bin of history. How's that? Was that a good one?
Well, but let's keep the good parts of it.
So does anybody have a question they'd like to ask before we go? Mark, I'm looking at you. I know you got filled with questions. Right? It scared him, right? You know, all of a sudden he starts shriveling up on me here. Ask me, stand up. Everybody remembers the speaker we had here, Mr. Dubai, Mr. Troon Golf right here. He's hungry to ask a question right now. There's the man right there, Jimbo. Here's the speaker.
Okay, I'll ask you, what other things do you believe that clubs could be doing to be different?
The clubs could be doing?
The clubs, yeah. Outside of golf.
Outside of golf.
Things like having races at their clubs on the cart paths around, those kind of things. Having concerts on the driving range. Those are a couple for you.
Well, there's all kinds of, here's the thing. The concepts are unlimited, especially if you tap into your staff and ask them for their ideas.
Exactly. Let me tell you how you go about doing this, because there are millions of ideas out there. People got all sorts of insights. You put people together. Golf 3.0 will require that the general manager be a facilitator of idea generation. So I put you 4 people together. 1, 2, 3, 4. I better count it right? Put the 4 of you together. I will throw a question on the table. What can we do to make New Year's Eve different and more special than the neighbors are doing over there? Because they don't do it. And all of a sudden you start throwing out wild and crazy ideas. And all of a sudden something hits. You try it. And again, it might be a failure. It doesn't matter. Because people love the idea that they're giving input into new programming that exists out there. You could think about the market. The first thing I'd ask everybody is, how many market segments are there in your club? And they'll say, oh, men and women, old and young. No. Every member wants to be a market of one. Is that not true? I want you to personalize and customize my experience so that I have a special experience there. So that's one of the programming that you should do. And the membership information systems that are out there, there's all the technology there. And you know what I've discovered in Golf 2.0? They've got all the computers, they gather all the technology, and they don't do a goddamn thing with it. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And the idea is you've got to leverage that. And what way can you do so? There are hundreds of ways. By way of example, you should know when everybody's child graduates from high school, just as an example. Do you know what it's like? I'm talking emotional cement now. If all of a sudden you get a handwritten note from Mr. Troon Golf over here, not to the member, but to their son. Congratulations, you finally got out of high school. You're 27, but I'm glad you're out, whatever it might be. Do you know how powerful that is in terms of getting repeat customers and business? It's so easy to keep members. You don't want to lose anybody you've got. Everybody worries about how do you get new members. Forget that. I've gone to all these marketing people. Oh, I can get you 100 new members. And then I said, that's great, you've got them. How do you orient 100 new members and embrace them with your community? Well, Greg, that's your problem, not mine, right? So it's very interesting. Hundreds of programs you just mentioned right now. Again, all the holidays you could start with, special openings. We opened up bathrooms, and we'd have a bathroom opening party with champagne in the urinals and that sort of thing. And people, do you think people took photographs? I didn't have to advertise. Because if you do things that are interesting and memorable, people are going to be your best advertisement. Is that true?
And especially today, they go all over the internet.
Right off the bat. And you want them to, right? So I think people put too much of an emphasis on marketing. They should put more an emphasis on the product they deliver and the memories that they're able to generate with that product. And they'll take the photographs. See, that's memorable.
And the executive summary answer,
Steve says,
the executive summary
do not
answer
let him come to KL.
is we've got to get off of our lazy tails. You realize that we not only need to get outside the box, but there is no box.
Hold it just a second. I'm looking at Simon from Club 59, but I don't give a good goddamn about him. He's an old geeky guy. I'm looking at a millennial right now. Hold it, stand up, dude. Who are you?
Karen.
Karen. Are you related to anybody here?
I'm his son.
He's on a roll now.
Hold it, you're his son. So obviously you are hungry for answers, isn't that true?
That's true.
Look at him. Right. He wants to know, what do I need to do to become a superstar? God, look at that up there. Okay, talk to me. Ask him a question. There he is right there. Jimbo, don't walk so far away. Ask Jimbo a question. Right? He's been listening to me all afternoon, right? All knowledge is question-driven. Huh? What have you been doing there? I saw you on the cell phone. I'll throw it right through the window. Yeah, that's okay.
There's no window.
Question. We'll make a window when I throw it through. Take the microphone. Put it up to your lips. No, up to your lips. Talk from there.
5 questions in a row, we get to the truth.
I don't know. I haven't got a question.
How old am I? 39. Next question.
How long have you been 39?
How long have I been where? Here?
39.
I'm going on my 35th 39.
Okay, I'm going to do this then. Hold it, Jimbo. You've got a millennial right here. He's hungry. He's got millions of dollars. He's stolen his father. Actually, he's embezzled from you. You didn't know. He told me about it last night when you were drinking too much. What question would you ask this millennial about Golf 3.0 and the Golf 3.0 environment? Because you've got a 9-hole golf course. You want to make the big bucks. Ask him the question.
What don't you like about golf?
That's a good question.
I don't like how long it takes.
That came up earlier today.
Hold it. You might come to a 9-hole golf course. Is that true? But you are a drinker. I saw you drinking aggressively last night, right? And you like the Chiquitas. I understand. She's here for you, not because of me, right? But take that as an example. So you want to play 9 holes, 2 hours, but I bet you'd like to sit around with your mates and have a great conversation and laugh at the gods. Is that not true? So in our 9-hole golf course, what we are going to do is create a fabulous 9-hole experience. We're going to have a halfway house at the fourth fairway, 4th tee, right? So you can go there and eat hot dogs and that sort of thing. And when you're done, we're going to have somebody there that's going to give you a beer because we know, because of technology, that you like a certain type of beer, right? So all of a sudden, you come off the course, you're smiling because we have 15-inch holes, tailor-mades, right? Real big holes. You're glowing. Now, you want to come in. I say, how do you do it? The starter, it might be you or me, right? We give you the potatoes and the French fries, and we say, come on in. Here, you just broke 137 for 9 holes. Here's a free drink for you. I will prime the pump because you'll be with 3 other guys, right? Do you like to golf alone? No way. No, don't tell me that. I know you don't. And then you come inside. We can use you as an example. If I had 2 hours with you, we would find out what millennials really want. We don't have to read books. I could just talk to you. particularly if I loosen you up with a little beer. Beer and bologna? You know?
Wine.
Vino and verbosity.
Vino in veritas.
Vino and verbosity right there. So we got one more question. Good try. That's okay. Warn him next time, Simon. We got one more table we're going to go to. Somebody's going to come up with a question. Just a second. Christopher. I've got a guy that's been all over the world in the last year. Huh? Stand up. Who are you? Tell us who you are.
I'm Chris Duffy and I'm unemployed.
Hold it just a second. Stand on the chair. Stand on the chair. This man is unemployed. That's okay. You can get down now. That's what we just say. So, Christopher, you have the opportunity because you're an up-and-coming young professional. You see Jimbo over here? He's like Methuselah, but that's okay. You don't have to think of that. You're going to ask him a question that will help guide you in your search for the perfect job. What's the question?
With a 3.0 status, you're looking for young, up-and-coming managers. You have a long history in employing people. What are the 3 key points that you would give me to go into the future?
Passion, honesty, and pursuit of excellence or continuing education.
So passion is a key thing. And I'd have to say, come over here with me right now. Come over here close. We're going to look you close in the eye. Do you have get in close. Do you have the buzz for the business?
I've traveled the world, so hopefully.
Okay, hopefully he's got that. He's buzzed for the business. So ladies and gentlemen, the time is that, oh, look at that. Who's that guy with the bald head? I like that sort of thing. We're finished for the day. I guess everybody's on their own tonight. Is that correct? This is Bangkok. Being on your own here is a nice thing to do, right? I understand my wife's here, so I don't have to worry about Bangkok tonight, right? Ooh! I look at this. So, ladies and gentlemen, does anybody have a question? No questions. Then we're going to finish it on an upbeat note because we're in the happiness business. Everybody stand up. Stand up. We're going to do what we do in India. If you've ever been to India, gone to a laugh club, we're going to finish off like they do at the laugh clubs just outside of Chennai. Loosen your arms up. It's the end of the day. You're about to put your hands in the air, and on the count of 3, all you're going to do is laugh. 1, 2, 3. Ha, ha, ha. Hold it just a second. I just heard that passion is the most important thing you got to have in order to be a success in this business. We're in the happiness business. Is that true? Hands in the air again. Hands in the air. 1, 2, 3. Ha! Okay, ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening.